The year was 2045. Earth had reached a critical point in its technological development. What once seemed impossible was now part of everyday life. Cities were brighter, cleaner, and more connected than ever before. People lived longer, healthier lives, and travel to the farthest corners of the world had become quicker and easier. Humanity had made great strides in science, medicine, and engineering, but most believed that there was still so much more to discover. Little did they know, their advancements had not gone unnoticed. Somewhere beyond the reach of Earth's satellites, beyond the edge of the Milky Way, a far more advanced civilization watched closely. The Galactic Empire, a powerful organization that controlled hundreds of star systems, had long been aware of Earth's existence. They had monitored humanity's development from a distance, noting every technological leap with increasing concern. At first, they dismissed Earth as a fledgling species, too young and primitive to pose any real threat. But as Earth's technology accelerated, the Empire grew more uncertain. The Empire had dealt with countless civilizations across the galaxy. Most were content to live under the Empire's rule, accepting their place in the grand scheme of the universe. However, a few races had shown potential to be far more than just subjects. These races had the intelligence, ambition, and creativity that could one day challenge the Empire's dominance. The Empire's leaders had dealt with such threats before, and they knew what to do. But Earth was different. There was something about humanity that intrigued them. The first sign that things were about to change came quietly, almost unnoticed by the people of Earth. A few strange disturbances began to appear in Earth's most secure communication channels. Military radar systems, space telescopes, and even civilian satellites picked up odd signals that seemed to come from deep space. It was nothing that Earth's scientists could explain. Some thought it was just a glitch, others a misinterpretation of cosmic radiation. But for those who knew what to look for, the signals were a warning. As the weeks passed, more of these mysterious signals appeared. Each one seemed to carry a subtle but unmistakable message. We are watching. The more Earth scientists studied the signals, the more they realized they were not the result of natural phenomena. These signals were deliberate, encoded, and too structured to be random. There was an intelligence behind them. At first, governments around the world reacted with disbelief. It must be a hoax, they said. Some other nation is trying to scare us. But when the signals continued to grow in strength and complexity, even the most skeptical of world leaders had to admit that something far beyond their understanding was happening. In secret, world leaders gathered. Representatives from every major country sat in a secure underground bunker, trying to make sense of what was unfolding. They were faced with a mystery they could not solve and a threat they could not identify. No one knew who or what was sending the messages, but the implications were clear. Earth was being watched by something, or someone, that was far more advanced than anything they could imagine. Among the leaders was Dr. Maya Peterson, a renowned astrophysicist who had spent her life studying the stars. She had always believed in the possibility of extraterrestrial life, but never imagined it would come knocking on Earth's door. Dr. Peterson was the first to speak up. "We have to be prepared," she said, her voice steady despite the fear that lurked in the room. "We don't know who they are or what they want, but we can't ignore this. We need to act now." A wave of nervous energy spread across the room. What could they do? Earth had always been isolated, a small planet among billions, and now it seemed that the entire galaxy had been watching. What if this was the beginning of something much bigger? What if humanity was no longer in control of its fate? For the first time in history, humanity was united by a single, undeniable truth. They were not alone in the universe. The leaders debated through the night, arguing over how best to handle the situation. Some called for military action, while others insisted on a more diplomatic approach. But one thing became clear: Earth was no longer the quiet, insignificant planet it once was. It had caught the attention of something far greater. And in the midst of this uncertainty, Earth's fate rested on the decisions made in that bunker. Little did they know, The message from the stars was only the beginning. The quiet hum of a normal morning on Earth had been replaced with tension. The world had been put on alert after the strange signals from deep space, but no one could have predicted what would come next. In every country, in every city, people felt uneasy. News networks began reporting mysterious disruptions in military and communication systems. At first, it was small. Radar systems showed brief, unexplained blips. Air traffic control systems experienced temporary shutdowns. The internet went down in some regions for hours at a time. The disruptions were unsettling, but no one knew the cause. Some suggested it was the work of hackers. Others speculated that it could be a form of cyber attack from a powerful enemy. However, as days passed, the incidents grew more frequent, and the scope of the disturbances widened. In every corner of the globe, Earth's communication systems began to break down in strange, almost synchronized ways. Scientists scrambled to understand what was happening. Dr. Maya Peterson, the astrophysicist who had been part of the secret meetings with world leaders, was the first to realize that these disturbances were not random. They followed patterns, almost like someone was trying to send a message. But the source of these disruptions wasn't coming from Earth. It was coming from space. Maya called together a team of experts from around the world. They worked tirelessly to piece together the fragments of the signals they had been receiving. After weeks of analysis, they discovered something astonishing. The encrypted transmissions, previously thought to be from some unknown force, were actually originating from the very same region where the strange deep space signals had come from. It was clear now. Earth was being targeted by something far beyond human understanding. At the United Nations headquarters in New York, representatives from nearly every nation met in emergency session. The room was filled with anxiety and confusion. The Secretary General, a calm and collected woman named Andrea Ruiz, stood before the assembly, addressing the room with urgency in her voice. "This is not a coincidence," she said. "These disruptions are not of human origin. Something, or someone, is trying to communicate with us." The leaders of the world were divided. Some pushed for an immediate military response, fearing an attack. Others suggested trying to decode the signals, hoping to learn more about the intentions of these unknown entities. But one thing was certain: Earth's future was hanging in the balance. Meanwhile, Dr. Peterson and her team had made a breakthrough. They had finally deciphered part of the message. What they had uncovered was chilling. "You are not prepared. Your time will come. Prepare yourselves." The message left Earth's scientists with more questions than answers. Who were these beings? And what did they mean by "your time will come"? Was this a warning, or was it a threat? The United Nations debated whether to release this information to the public. Many feared the panic it might cause. But Dr. Peterson argued that humanity had the right to know the truth. After all, they had already received a message from the stars. Now it was time to face the consequences. In a historic broadcast, the world's leaders addressed the public. Andrea Ruiz spoke directly to the people of Earth. "We have received a message from an unknown civilization. We do not yet understand their full intentions, but they have made it clear that they are watching us. We must be prepared for whatever comes next." The message sent shockwaves through every country. People were scared, uncertain of what the future held. But there was also a growing sense of unity. For the first time in history, humanity faced a challenge that transcended borders, cultures, and beliefs. People began to put aside their differences, realizing that the survival of their planet might depend on their ability to work together. As the days went by, Earth's scientists continued to study the incoming signals, trying to piece together more information. They discovered that the signals were not just messages. They were sophisticated data transmissions, filled with unknown technology and strange patterns. The more they decoded, the more they realized how advanced these beings were. The technology contained in the signals was far beyond anything Earth had ever seen. Despite the fear and confusion, there was also a sense of awe. The idea that Earth was not alone in the universe, that there were other intelligent beings out there, was both thrilling and terrifying. But what if these beings had no interest in peaceful contact? What if they saw Earth as a threat to their empire? The unknown intruders had made their presence felt, and now the people of Earth had to decide how to respond. Would they face this new challenge with fear, or would they rise to meet it? For the first time in history, humanity was united under one banner: the unknown. The world's leaders and scientists knew one thing for certain: their next steps would determine the future of Earth. Would they bow to the unknown intruders, or would they stand up for their planet? The coming days would reveal the answer. The world had changed overnight. The message from the stars, coupled with the strange disruptions to Earth's communication systems, had sent ripples of fear through every corner of the planet. Governments, scientists, and civilians alike were caught in a whirlwind of confusion and anxiety. For weeks, humanity had been reacting to the unknown. But now, the time had come to decide. What would they do? In a secure meeting room at the United Nations headquarters, representatives from every country gathered once again. This time, the atmosphere was different. There was no longer just panic or fear in the air. There was also determination. Andrea Ruiz, the United Nations Secretary General, stood at the head of the table, her face calm yet resolute. Her voice echoed through the room as she addressed the global leaders. We cannot afford to wait any longer. We've been receiving messages, but we don't know if they are threats or warnings. We need to make a decision. We need to respond. The room fell silent. All eyes were on Andrea. The debate had been ongoing for days, with no clear consensus. Some believed the time had come to show strength, to send a message that Earth would not be intimidated. Others argued that humanity should take a more cautious approach, trying to understand who these mysterious beings were and what they wanted before taking any drastic action. Dr. Maya Peterson, the astrophysicist who had played a key role in decoding the signals, was among those present. She stepped forward, her expression thoughtful yet firm. "We've learned something important," she began, her voice carrying the weight of her discovery. "These messages are not just threats. They are challenges. A challenge to our species, a challenge to our very survival. But they are also an invitation." The room buzzed with whispers. An invitation. What did that mean? Maya continued, "These beings are not here to destroy us, at least not yet. They are testing us. They are waiting to see how we respond. But the most important thing we've learned is that we are not helpless. We have the ability to rise to this challenge. We have the intelligence, the creativity, and the strength to face whatever comes next." Her words struck a chord with the leaders gathered. There was a sense of unity in the room, a shared understanding that humanity could no longer afford to be passive. If they were going to survive this test, they would need to respond. They would need to show that they were capable of more than just survival. They would need to show that they were ready for the future. The United Nations voted that day to send a message back. It was not a threat, but a statement. Earth would not be intimidated. Earth would not back down. And Earth was ready to meet whatever challenge the unknown intruders had in store. The message was simple, but it carried the weight of humanity's resolve. We are ready. As the message was transmitted into space, it was received by the mysterious beings who had been watching Earth. They were the first to recognize that the inhabitants of this small planet were unlike any other species they had encountered. There was a fierceness in humanity, a spark of determination that set them apart. The unknown beings had never expected this kind of response. Back on Earth, the response was mixed. Some believed it was too soon to provoke the unknown intruders, while others felt that humanity had no choice. It was clear that the world had been forever changed. The message had been sent, and now there was no turning back. Dr. Peterson and her team continued to analyze the data they had collected. They studied the patterns of the signals, trying to understand the intentions of the beings that had contacted them. Slowly but surely, they began to uncover more pieces of the puzzle. These beings were not just powerful. They were ancient. They had been traveling the galaxy for millennia, observing countless worlds and civilizations. Most of the time, They did nothing. They simply watched. But when they encountered a species that showed potential, that displayed the will to survive and thrive, they tested them. The test was coming, and humanity was about to face it. While governments around the world prepared for the next steps, a new sense of unity began to spread among Earth's people. National borders seemed less important now. People from all walks of life, scientists, engineers, artists, and everyday citizens, came together. They shared ideas, worked on new technologies, and found ways to prepare for the unknown challenge that lay ahead. In every major city, people gathered in groups to discuss the future. In some places, they held peaceful rallies, proclaiming their readiness to face whatever the universe threw their way. In others, people simply shared stories of what it meant to be human, their hopes, their dreams, their will to persevere. As Earth's people united, the unknown intruders watched from afar. The test was far from over, but one thing had become clear. Earth was no longer the quiet, isolated planet it had once been. Humanity had shown that it could stand strong, that it would not back down from any challenge, no matter how great. The response had been sent, and now the waiting began. But this time, humanity stood ready. The message had been sent. Earth had declared its readiness to face whatever challenge the unknown beings had in store. Now, the entire planet waited in anxious anticipation. Would the intruders respond? What would their next move be? Days turned into weeks, and the silence between Earth and the unknown visitors seemed to stretch on forever. The fear that had gripped the world began to shift into something else. Uncertainty. What was happening out there in the stars? Were the visitors truly watching, or had they already moved on to another planet, another species to observe? Then, without warning, everything changed. It was a calm evening when it happened. The first sign came not from the sky, but from the sea. A massive object, larger than any ship humanity had ever seen, appeared off the coast of the Pacific Ocean. It was an enormous, gleaming craft, its shape unlike anything known to Earth's engineers. The ship shimmered with a strange, silvery light, casting reflections on the water as it hovered just above the surface. It made no sound, no rumble. It simply floated there, like a silent sentinel watching over the planet. On land, the world was in chaos. News outlets were flooded with reports of the mysterious object. Military jets scrambled to intercept, but they were too late. The ship moved with such speed and grace that nothing on Earth could match it. The object hovered above the water, undisturbed by the frantic activity of human forces below. For a brief moment, there was total silence. People stared at the sky from their windows, their phones, their television screens. The world held its breath. And then it spoke. A voice, calm, composed, but undeniably foreign, echoed across the globe. It came through every communication channel, radio, television, and the internet. There was no warning, no signal beforehand, just a sudden voice, as though it had always been there, waiting to be heard. People of Earth, the voice began, "We have come." The words were simple, yet they carried the weight of an entire galaxy. The voice continued, "We are the observers. We have watched your planet for eons. We have seen the rise and fall of many civilizations. Some have survived, others have not. You are the latest to be tested." Fear once again gripped the hearts of Earth's people. The message was clear. This was not a diplomatic visit. This was a test. But why now? Why Earth? The voice paused, as if to allow the message to sink in, before continuing. "We do not come to destroy. We come to observe, to test, and to understand. Your response has shown us much. But now we must see if you are worthy of what lies beyond." There was no threat in the voice, yet its words carried a sense of finality. It was as if the very fate of humanity depended on what would happen next. The ship above the ocean remained still, an imposing presence that watched over the world. Earth's leaders reacted swiftly. Military forces were put on high alert, and emergency meetings were called in every country. But even with all their preparation, they knew that there was nothing they could do to confront this force. The ship had already shown that it was beyond anything Earth had at its disposal. At the same time, there was something else happening. Instead of fear, some people began to feel a strange sense of wonder. The message had not been a threat, but an invitation. The unknown beings were not here to conquer. They were here to watch, to understand, and perhaps to learn from humanity. This realization began to spread, even among the leaders of Earth. Maybe this was not a battle to fight, but a chance to prove humanity's worth, to show the strength that came from their creativity, their resourcefulness, and their unity. Dr. Maya Peterson was one of the first to speak on behalf of Earth's scientific community. As an expert who had decoded the signals and deciphered the messages, she stood before the world's leaders with determination in her eyes. "This is our moment," she said firmly. "We've been given a chance to prove that we can be more than just a species that survives. We can be a species that thrives. We have the knowledge, the heart, and the courage to rise to this challenge. This is not a time for fear. It's a time to show the universe what humanity is capable of." Her words echoed through the halls of the United Nations and beyond. People all over the world tuned in, listening to her speech. It was as if, in that moment, humanity was coming together in a way that had never happened before. The divisions that had separated nations, races, and cultures began to fade away, replaced by a shared sense of purpose. The message from the unknown ship had been clear. It was not a test of power or destruction. It was a test of humanity itself. And now, the world had to decide how to respond. The ship in the sky hovered, waiting for Earth's answer. The world held its breath once again, but this time, there was something different in the air. It wasn't fear, it was hope. Humanity was no longer just a planet of individuals. They were united in their desire to show the universe who they truly were. As the sun began to set on that fateful day, Earth waited. The first encounter had been made. And now, humanity's future hung in the balance. The ship remained suspended in the sky, casting a long, shimmering reflection over the calm ocean. The message had been clear. The unknown beings were here to observe, to test humanity, to see if Earth was worthy of what lay beyond. The question was now on everyone's mind. How would humanity respond? In the days that followed, the world was filled with discussion, not just among world leaders, but among ordinary people. News channels broadcasted nonstop, and social media buzzed with every new piece of information. Was this a challenge to be faced head-on, or an opportunity to prove humanity's potential? At the United Nations, leaders from every country gathered for an emergency meeting. The atmosphere was tense, but there was a sense of unity that hadn't been felt in years. This wasn't just a meeting about politics or military strategy. This was about the future of humanity itself. Andrea Ruiz, the United Nations Secretary General, stood at the front of the room, looking out at the world's most powerful leaders. There was no time for hesitation. Every decision they made in the next few days could change the course of history. She knew this would be a defining moment for Earth, for all of humanity. "We've received the message," she said, her voice strong and unwavering. "And now we must respond. The world is watching, not just the unknown beings, but every person on this planet. We must show that humanity can stand together, united, ready to prove our worth." Her words echoed around the room. No one doubted the significance of the moment, but there were still many questions, many fears. What if these beings were hostile? What if the test wasn't one that humanity could pass? Dr. Maya Peterson, the astrophysicist who had been leading the efforts to decode the messages, spoke next. Her voice was steady, but there was a fire in her eyes. "I believe they're watching us not just for our strength, but for our character. It's not about military power, it's about the ability to come together, to solve problems, and to rise to challenges. We've done that before in our history, and we can do it again." Her words struck a chord with the assembly. It wasn't just about what they had, it was about who they were as a species. The unknown beings had come to test humanity's character, to see if they could be trusted with knowledge and power on a galactic scale. The time for fear and division had passed. Now it was time for humanity to show what it was made of. The world's leaders quickly agreed on a plan. Earth would send a message back to the unknown beings, not as a threat, but as a declaration of humanity's readiness to face the challenge. The message would be simple, but powerful. We are united. We are ready. In the days that followed, every nation on Earth came together. Military forces stood down, and scientific teams worked around the clock to prepare for what came next. People from all walks of life, from teachers to doctors, from farmers to engineers, joined forces to show the world that Earth was ready to take on this challenge, not with weapons, but with the strength of their ideas, their hearts, and their resolve. The response to the unknown beings was not just one of words. It was a demonstration of humanity's commitment to peace, progress, and unity. Across the globe, people gathered in public spaces, offering a simple yet powerful message. Humanity would stand together, no matter the cost. At the United Nations, Andrea Ruse addressed the global community once more. We stand as one world, united in purpose. We do not know what lies ahead, but we will face it together. We are not perfect, but we are capable of growth. We will prove that humanity is ready for the future. As the message was sent, Earth's scientists continued to study the strange ship hovering in the Pacific Ocean. They used every tool at their disposal, telescopes, satellites, even underwater drones, to learn more about the craft. What they discovered was both awe-inspiring and humbling. The ship wasn't just a machine. It was a work of art, an expression of a civilization far more advanced than anything humanity could imagine. But what struck them most was the absence of weapons. There were no signs of aggression, no weapon systems visible. It was as if the ship's purpose was not to conquer, but to observe, to test. The realization spread across the world. The unknown beings were not here to destroy. They were here to challenge humanity, to see if Earth was ready to take its place among the stars. And humanity had passed the first test, by standing united, by showing that it could put aside its differences for the greater good. As the days went on, there was still no sign of what would happen next. The ship in the sky remained still, watching, waiting. But this time, the people of Earth no longer felt the weight of fear hanging over them. There was no guarantee of what the future held, but there was a sense of hope. Humanity had risen to the challenge, and they were ready for whatever came next. In the quiet moments, when people looked up at the sky, they knew that Earth's place in the universe had changed forever. The test wasn't over, but humanity had shown that it was ready. The world held its breath, waiting for the next move. Days passed, and the world grew quiet, as though holding its collective breath. The massive ship remained suspended over the Pacific Ocean, motionless but ever-present. No new messages, no signs of hostility, just silence. And in that silence, humanity found itself at a crossroads. In every corner of the globe, people were asking the same question: what came next? The world had united, sent its message, and shown that it was ready for whatever challenge lay ahead. But despite the hopeful resolve, uncertainty still lingered. No one knew what the unknown beings were truly looking for. Were they waiting for more? Had they already made their decision about Earth's fate? Dr. Maya Peterson, still the leading voice on the matter, had been working tirelessly to understand the strange signals. Her team of scientists had managed to decode some additional data hidden within the messages, though it wasn't enough to fully grasp the beings' intentions. What they did know was that these beings had observed countless worlds, each unique in its own way, but none had ever reacted the way humanity had. Earth had not only shown resolve, it had shown hope. But the unknown visitors were silent. On the eve of what was being called the Great Silence, a meeting was called at the United Nations. Representatives from around the world gathered once again, this time with a sense of urgency. If no further communication came from the ship in the sky, humanity might have to take a more direct approach. The world's leaders, now more united than ever, knew that it wasn't just about reacting to the test. They had to take action. Andrea Ruiz, the Secretary General, stood at the head of the assembly. Her face was calm, but her eyes revealed the weight of the decisions ahead. "We've shown our strength," she said. "Now we must show our wisdom. We cannot let fear guide us, but we cannot stand still either. We must prepare for whatever is to come. We cannot afford to wait much longer." As the meeting continued, proposals were put forward, ranging from increasing technological readiness to preparing diplomatic efforts for potential first contact. It wasn't just a matter of showing that humanity could meet the challenge. It was about demonstrating that Earth was worthy of being a part of something larger than itself, something grander than the limits of its own planet. Meanwhile, in the Pacific, the mysterious ship continued to hover, its metallic surface glimmering under the sun. Its occupants, or perhaps its creators, were still watching. But the ship did not move, it did not approach, it did not retreat. And so, the world waited. Across the globe, cities buzzed with anticipation. People spoke of the unknown visitors with awe and curiosity rather than fear. In places like Tokyo, New York, and Rio de Janeiro, the mood was the same. Earth was ready. People began to organize events, offering what they could: ideas, inventions, knowledge, for humanity's part in the grand challenge that lay ahead. It wasn't just about showing strength or readiness. It was about showing the universe what it meant to be human, to think, to dream, to aspire. At night, people gathered on rooftops and in public spaces, staring up at the sky. Some prayed, others meditated, and many simply waited in silence, wondering if this moment, the moment that could change everything, was about to arrive. Then, on the 31st day since the ship had first appeared, something extraordinary happened. A sudden bright flash of light filled the sky, so brilliant that it could be seen from every corner of the world. It wasn't a signal of aggression or hostility. It was something different. A message, an invitation, sent from the ship itself. The bright light seemed to pulse, each wave of brightness followed by a deeper, softer glow. It was mesmerizing, calming, and somehow full of promise. At first, people were unsure what to make of it. Was it another signal? Another test? But then, the unmistakable voice that had first spoken to Earth's leaders filled the air once more. "Humanity," it said, its tone as calm as before, but with an undeniable sense of anticipation. "We have watched. We have waited. You have shown us your strength. You have shown us your unity. Now we will test your resolve." The message was brief, but it carried a weight that reached deep into the hearts of everyone who heard it. The challenge was not over. It had only just begun. But humanity's response had been heard. The unknown visitors, the observers, had recognized something in Earth that they had not expected. There was something about humanity, its ability to come together, to strive for progress, to hope against all odds, that had impressed them. Across the globe, people held their breath. This was it. The challenge, the test, was about to begin. In that moment, as Earth's inhabitants stood together, some afraid, some hopeful, one thing was certain: humanity was no longer just a quiet, isolated planet. Earth had taken its first steps onto a larger stage. It had answered the call. And now, it was time to face whatever lay ahead. The unknown visitors had made their move, and the world was ready. The air was thick with anticipation as the world awaited the next move. The unknown visitors had shown their hand. They had tested humanity's unity, resilience, and hope. Now the question was no longer about proving that humanity could rise to the challenge. It was about what would come next. The flash of light from the ship had faded, leaving a sense of quiet that hung over the world. For the first time in weeks, the ship in the sky did not move. There was no message, no sign of aggression or hostility. Humanity had done its part. And now, the unknown beings seemed to wait. It was the quiet before the storm, and every human on Earth felt it. Governments, scientists, ordinary people, They all waited, staring at the sky, waiting for that final moment. What would happen now? On Earth's surface, the work of preparing continued. Governments ensured that emergency response systems were in place in case the test was a more dangerous one. Military forces remained on high alert, but they did so with the understanding that it was not about fighting. It was about surviving what might come next. The scientific community, led by Dr. Maya Peterson, worked in unison to prepare for the unknown. Then, a week later, a change came. The ship in the sky stirred, as if it had been waiting for something. Slowly, almost imperceptibly, it began to descend. The people of Earth watched with bated breath, unsure of what to expect. As the ship moved closer, a gentle hum filled the air, a vibration so low it could be felt rather than heard. People looked up, wide-eyed, as the immense ship floated down to a large, flat area on the outskirts of a major city. The ship landed, its metallic surface reflecting the sunlight. The hum faded, leaving only silence in its wake. The world was holding its breath. From the ship, a doorway opened. It was not like the doorways humans were accustomed to. This one seemed to fold open like a piece of advanced technology, without any sound or visible mechanism. Slowly, figures emerged from the ship. They were not like humans, but there was something about them that was strangely familiar. They were tall, with elongated limbs and shimmering skin that seemed to reflect the light in subtle hues. Their eyes were large, but kind. No malice or threat could be seen in their gaze. And then, the voice that had first spoken to Earth filled the air once again, not from a loudspeaker or a machine, but from the beings themselves. Their language was like a song, beautiful and harmonic, though their words were understood universally. Humanity, they said, their voices clear and calm. You have passed our test. You have shown us your greatest strength, your unity, your creativity, and your will to thrive. You are ready. A sense of relief washed over the world. It was not the end, but it was the beginning of something new, something Earth had never experienced before. These beings were not invaders. They were not conquerors. They were witnesses, seeking to understand humanity's potential. And now, they had seen enough. The beings stepped forward, offering their hands in a gesture of peace. The world watched as the first contact was made. Humanity and the unknown beings came together. It wasn't an act of war or dominance. It was an exchange, an invitation. Humanity had earned the right to join the larger community of the stars. For a moment, there was silence again. But this time, it wasn't filled with fear. It was filled with possibility. The unknown visitors shared knowledge with humanity. Not just technology, but understanding, philosophy, science, and a view of the universe that humans had never imagined. They showed humanity the beauty of the cosmos, the vastness of space, and the interconnectedness of all life. It was as if the unknown visitors had seen the potential for growth, not just in Earth's technology, but in its spirit. For the first time, humanity understood. The test wasn't just about proving their worth. It was about showing that they could grow, that they could work together, and that they could contribute to the greater whole of the universe. The ship, after sharing its knowledge, left. It didn't depart in haste. It floated up slowly, as if giving humanity a moment to absorb everything that had just occurred. Then, it vanished into the sky, leaving Earth with more than just a message. It left a future. And from that day forward, Earth was no longer just a small, isolated planet in the vast expanse of space. It had proven itself. Its people had shown their worth. And they were now part of something much larger than they had ever dreamed possible. As the sun set on the horizon, people everywhere looked to the stars with hope. The challenge had been met, and humanity had passed. The unknown beings had seen the very best of what Earth had to offer, and they had welcomed humanity into the great tapestry of the universe. For the first time, humanity was not alone, and the future was full of promise.